Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock Adam Reeder here, sitting on my Elvis couch in my living room with the tape table behind me. I'm ready for another segment of On the Fly, where it's just me and my iPhone. I'm not going to send this in for any big production value, no sound, no color, no editing, just me, top of mind, sharing my thoughts off the cuff. And I'm excited about this one because I was thinking about rock supergroups or pop supergroups, and I loved getting your comments the last time we were talking about, what was the better year, 1987 or 1984. So many great comments, and I know we're going to have great comments for this one. I'd love to do this as a community. But anyway, back to supergroups. So I had the opportunity to interview Jeff Downs of Asia about a month ago. It was very interesting to hear the story of when they were putting all those big personalities, that big talent in one room, and how some of it gelled and some of it didn't. And I was thinking about the Traveling Wilburys today, my favorite, one of my favorite groups ever. I remember my dad was so excited when that came out because he was a huge Roy Orbison and Bob Dylan and George Harrison fan. And of course, I love Tom Petty and all those guys as well. And Jeff Lynne, I mean, are you kidding me? Those guys coming together, just incredible. And you probably knew this, but the idea was spawned from George Harrison's sessions for Cloud 9. He's working with Jeff Lynne. And they formed it in '88, the 5 members. They did a bonus track, I guess, for Harrison's next European single, and it was handled with care. And it just was too good for a limited release. And so they agreed to do a full album, and they were actually going to go on tour as well. But that got a little bit lost in the shuffle. I don't think George Harrison wanted to. I know that Tom Petty really wanted to. In fact, there's a story where he got down on his knees and begged, "It's so much money." That's awesome. But that project was, I just remember anticipating that album because my dad was anticipating it and hearing that. And the other great story that we're out there is that all of these guys adored Roy Orbison. They were just in awe of his talent. If you think about whenever Roy Orbison would sing, I think Bob Dylan talked about this. Was it in Chronicles? Remember, he talked about this also in an interview that I saw. And he said whenever Roy Orbison was recording his part, everybody would stop and just stand and just watch in awe, just like Roy Orbison singing. Incredible. You imagine that? George Harrison, Tom Petty, Bob Dylan, Jeff Lynne, some of the greatest talents ever, and they were just in awe of that voice. I mean, Elvis Presley, that was his favorite singer. Just never going to be another one like Roy Orbison. Anyway, they, what I liked about the Traveling Wilburys, they didn't take it so seriously. There was some very serious music there. I mean, handled with care. You go back and listen to those lyrics, it's to blow your mind. But the band members kind of adopted this tongue-in-cheek, they had the pseudonyms, they were half-brothers from the fictional Wilbury family, and I liked that. And anyway, so I'm thinking about this week, and I'm thinking tongue-in-cheek. I want to do something kind of fun here. Here's a cool scenario. So let's say that you find a lamp, rock and roll lava lamp, and out comes a genie, and that genie grants you the ultimate music nerd's dream. So this genie has crowned you the manager, A&R master, and you have the ability to form 2 rock supergroups. You get to choose the 2 genres and who you will put in that band. But there's a couple of rules on this, is that just to make it fun, because I want us as a community, I want to hear who would be in your supergroup and why. Okay, so here's a scenario. You're required to record a studio album. You're going to go out on tour, and you have 6 slots, and that includes instrumentalists and a producer. You can use those slots any way you want to. All members must be living. They have to be living, alive, on the earth. But here's the thing. With each of these groups, you get one superpower, and that superpower is the ability to give one member of each of those bands a return to peak performance. That's right. They get to go back to the time that they were at tip-top shape, their best ever. So, forming the group, you have to think about chemistry and how do certain talents go together. Songwriting, is the album going to be great? Maybe you have a great touring band where you got all the bells and whistles, but maybe they don't really gel in the studio, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to start with mine. I definitely want to hear about yours. I'll start with rock. And this is kind of in the Traveling Wilburys vein. I've been thinking about this week, so it's not really on the fly because I'm giving it a great thought. But my focus on the rock group, I want to create a great studio album, something that will stand the test of time where every track is great. Because I know when I go out on tour, I mean, when you put these guys together, they're going to be able to play some of their hits. And can you imagine some of these people together, some of these superstars together, duetting, playing, all that. So that's going to be there, but I want to create a great album. So here's my setup. I'm going to have a lead singer and have 2 guitarists, a bassist, keyboardist, and drums. You might be thinking, well, who's going to be your producer? Well, I'll show you. So on bass guitar, going to go with Paul McCartney. Greatest songwriter, living songwriter ever, musical genius. He's a bass guitar. my two guitars. I'm thinking about chemistry here. I'm thinking about somebody who's great in the studio, great live, who can gel, has played with a lot of people, and has been able to play pretty much every genre. I'm going with Steve Lukather on one of the guitars. Luke, come on. The guy's played on every album you can think of from the late 70s to the early 80s. So I'm going to go with Bruce Springsteen at the other guitar. Bruce Springsteen, master songwriter, great guy. He brings it to the studio, brings it every single day. One of my favorites ever. It's just, I'm a little biased there, but there you go. So Bruce and Luke, the 2 guitars, bass guitar, Paul McCartney, already an all-star band. Plus, Luke has been in the Ringo All-Star Band. He's used to gelling with different players. Again, I don't have to talk any more about that because you know how much the members of Toto, especially Luke, has played with everybody from Michael Jackson to Olivia Newton-John. He played on Physical. Crazy. Anyway, Steve Perry is going to be my lead singer. And then I'm going to go with Billy Joel. Billy Joel on keys. He's going to be my keyboardist. That's sentimental, I know. But come on, Billy Joel, he's a showstopper. The guy's a showman, he can play. Can you imagine Paul McCartney and Billy Joel writing together? And then as my drummer, I'm going to go with a little bit of a wild card here. I'm going to go with Narda Michael Walden, who you've seen on the show, I've interviewed, I know him well. Great guy. Chemistry there, that guy brings the energy. He's such a positive guy. He's produced some of the biggest songs, biggest records ever. He's done all types of genres. And he's a phenomenal drummer. I mean, he played with the Mahavishnu Orchestra. Are you kidding me? Great. And he can produce. He's going to be my producer. He's been able to work with, he's been able to tell George Michael, no, sorry, we're doing it this way. He's worked with Aretha Franklin as a young man. He's worked with Whitney. He's worked with a lot of divas who he said, no, I really feel like we should do it this way. And he's been right. So this is a guy that can get it done. And I'm giving my peak performance to Steve Perry. Come on. Steve Perry at peak performance. Can you imagine? Seriously, Steve Perry with that band? Now you think about it, they're going to write a great album. I mean, even if you just assign 2 to 3 songs to each artist, they bring it in and then they collaborate on it. Springsteen, Billy Joel. Billy Joel's going to be able to write his first song in, since 1993. I mean, I know he's written a couple since then, but, Christmas in Fallujah and All My Life. But those aren't really Billy Joel per se. I mean, when he gets together, Paul McCartney, think of how much these guys are going to inspire one another. Luke's going to get in there. He's going to kill it. Steve Perry, when he steps up to that microphone. And again, peak performance Perry here. So think about the live shows. Okay, here's the thing that is the most exciting part of it. These guys go out and do a live show, even if the album is a complete flop, which of course it's not going to be. You get those great songwriters together, they're going to make it happen. And Narda and Luke being so great and working with so many people, they're going to bring that energy and that consistency. But think of this concert. They come out, first song out is Thunder Road with the boss, but guess who's singing, going back and forth with the boss on every verse to verse? It's Steve Perry. He's singing Screen Door Slams, Mary's Dress Waves with that high freaking tenor. Oh man, It's awesome. It's freaking awesome. Rosanna, the next song. Can you imagine Luke and Steve together? Luke comes in, he's playing, he's singing the lower parts. Rosanna, Rosanna. You know, he's hitting that. Then all of a sudden on the Bobby Kimball part, are you kidding me? Steve Perry comes in and blasts that out. It's over. We're only 2 songs into the concert. Then you got, going to slow things down with Yesterday. Paul McCartney. I'm sorry, but Steve Perry. I mean, he's a lead singer, so what else is he going to do? He's not going to play an instrument. You're going to use his vocal prowess. It's peak Perry, the voice. Can you imagine him singing a duet with Paul McCartney? Yesterday? Just incredible. Then you're going to bring out one of the great Billy Joel songs in Only the Good Die Young, and that's going to be Steve Perry and Billy Joel. You know, can you imagine Steve Perry? Well, they say there's a heaven for those who wait, or for those who pray. Some say it's better. Well, I mean, can you just imagine him the vocal gymnastics out of that song? Incredible. Then you got, you know, Don't Stop Believin', and a lot of people are like, well, I'm kind of tired of that song. I've heard it a million times. You haven't heard it with Steve Perry and Paul McCartney, a Beatle, the Beatle, you know, and Luke playing on it. And, I forgot to tell you, when you do a live show, you're allowed to bring in one guest for one number each show. And on this show, at this point, we're doing Don't Stop Believin'. We're bringing Neil Sean up on the stage, and he and Luke are going to trade licks while Steve Perry sings, Peak Perry sings Don't Stop Believin' with Neil Sean again on the same stage. It's over. I mean, who can compare with this? And then you're, of course, going to throw in Born to Run. That's going to be Paul McCartney, Billy and Bruce, Steve Perry coming in at the end there to bring some power there. Got to do Africa. Phenomenal pop song, and Billy Joel's gonna do that with Luke. Billy's gonna be great on that, and then Bruce will come in, and then and we're leaving Bruce out a little bit here. I mean, Bruce is gonna come in and he's gonna add wherever needs be, and then you've got Born to Run, like I said, Africa. Another Billy Joel song, and Innocent Man. So we're gonna have Steve Perry sing lead on that. Well, not lead. We'll have Billy Joel sing the verses, but then when you get into that chorus, I am an innocent man. I mean, Steve Perry singing that full throttle, it's going to bring dimensions to that song, because, I mean, Billy Joel, he was at peak vocal performance when he recorded that back in 1982, probably, I think late 82, early 83, and he knew he'd never be able to sing that well again. He knew that he was in peak performance as a tenor at that point, and that's why he did an Innocent Man and sang all those kind of doo-wop songs and all those high songs. Steve Perry's going to come in and get it done. And of course, you're going to end the song with what else? Hey Jude or Let It Be. Both of those back to back, and everybody's going to sing those. Everybody's going to get on those. All right, moving on to New Wave. I could talk about this forever. But New Wave, I'm going to go with 2 guitarists. My 2 guitarists are going to be Robert Smith of The Cure and Johnny Marr, previously of The Smiths. Can you imagine Robert Smith and Johnny Marr on the stage together? 2 very creative guitarists, and when they get in the studio, what they're going to be able to do, just incredible. My bassist is going to be Sting. I know Sting is, when he went away from the Police, it was more mainstream and more pop and jazz and rock, but we're going to go with Sting at bass. He brings everything to the table with that. And while we're bringing in Sting, we're going to bring in Stuart Copeland as a drummer. He's one of my favorite drummers of all time. He's going to bring it. And then we're going to go with keyboards. I'm going with Martin Gore. I was thinking Howard Jones and Vince Clarke. I mean, come on. Vincent Clarke, Erasure, Yazoo. But in the end, I'm going to go with Martin Gore because that beautiful voice, and he just brings so much. And then I'm going to go with the lead singer / producer in Peter Gabriel. Can you imagine Peter Gabriel with that lineup? Robert Smith, Johnny Marr, Peter Gabriel, Sting, Martin Gore, Stuart Copeland bringing it. Incredible. I'm giving my peak performance to Peter Gabriel. I'm going to take him right back to that high tenor voice, and he can still hit a lot of those notes, but I'm going peak performance Peter Gabriel. And then that's going to be a masterpiece of an album. I mean, if you get Johnny Marr and you get Robert Smith together and then you get Peter Gabriel, I mean, how can you not? Just those three right there will come up with something just ethereal, interesting, dynamic, melancholy. I thought about, like, bringing in Morrissey so I could reunite the Smiths, but I love Morrissey, but the Mazur's going to cause trouble. We don't need the drama. He probably won't show up, and he won't show up to the shows for sure. I'm not saying anything bad here. It's just kind of truth. I love what he brought, the Smiths, but anyway, and that was an idea, and then I mean, you could throw out a lot of other players. But I think that's an incredible lineup. And then, okay, so we go to the live show, and I'm thinking we open the show with Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic between Sting and Peter Gabriel. It's not like they haven't worked together before. They have. They did the Amnesty tour together. And then you go with Angel Without Frontiers with Robert Smith and Peter Gabriel. Then you're going to go slow it down with Pictures of You. Okay, think about this scenario. You got Robert Smith, you got Peter Gabriel. You got Johnny Marr's going to bring new dimensions to that song. Stuart Copeland and Sting, singing some backgrounds on that. I just think Peter Gabriel, Peter Peak, and Robert Smith together, those voices. And you're going to go with Somebody, and I think that's Robert Smith and Martin Gore. A duet between The Cure meeting in the middle with Depeche Mode, Martin Gore, Robert Smith. It doesn't get better. Message in a Bottle, that's going to be Sting and Robert and Peter Gabriel together. And Never Let Me Down. All of a sudden, we go into that, we hear that na 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 na. And guess what? Our guest for this concert is none other than David Gahan. David Gahan's going to come on the stage. Martin Gore's going to play. He's going to sing those great background vocals, but guess what? He's going to go toe-to-toe with Robert Smith. Robert Smith, I'm speechless. It was just, just imagine. Real showstopper, though, is going to be How Soon Is Now. I mean, Robert Smith, Peter Gabriel on Who Sound, How Soon Is Now. There you go. And then you're gonna dial it up even more because you're going to do Salisbury Hill. And that's going to be Martin Gore and Peter Gabriel. I think Martin Gore in a duet between Peter Gabriel, Salisbury Hill, that's just what the doctor ordered. And then, of course, you're going to end with Just Like Heaven. Just Like Heaven is going to be that scorcher, and it's going to be Robert Smith, and it's going to be Peter Gabriel, and they're going to bring... Peter Gabriel is going to push Robert in ways he's never been pushed. They're going to go toe-to-toe on that song. And then I think you always got to end on that kind of a somber number, because this is a new wave band. Everybody's depressed. So we're going to go If There Is a Light That Never Goes Out, and everybody's going to sing on that one. And if you can even wrap your mind around that, I mean, Peter Gabriel, Robert Smith, Johnny Marr, and I guess for another concert, we could try to call Morrissey and see if he'd be willing to come up and sing on There Is a Light That Never Goes Out down the road, and it could be Morrissey and Marr. But Robert Smith would kill him. He'd kill him. He'd punch him out. We know this. It's just not a good idea. Maybe Robert gets a little sick. He calls in sick. He's got a little cold, and then maybe we can have Morrissey come in for one night and sing on one song. I think that could work out. We hope that Morrissey shows up. Anyway, there you have it. That's mine. I want to know yours. Please let me know. Leave us a comment. Tell me your supergroup. Remember, choose two genres. I mean, if you want it to be metal and you want it to be classic rock, again, this is all up to you. But I want you to go a little bit more in detail. Spend some time on this. Really think about it, because it's kind of cool to think about what they could create in the studio and what they would do live, what that set list would look like. And again, I threw out like 7 or 8 songs per set list. This is going to be a 25 song show. Each of these groups are going to play 25 to 30 songs. I mean, Bruce Springsteen's going to push them. He's the king of the live show. And on the other end, Robert Smith is the king of the live show. I mean, I've heard interviews where Robert Smith said, there's this interview where they're talking to Robert Smith and they're saying, it's like at this, he played some big festival, he's one of the main groups at the festival, and there were, 25 bands playing, and they say to him, and the guy was a horrible interviewer. He's like, so how you feeling, Robert? You know, how you feeling? And Robert's like, I'm okay. And he's like, oh, you seem down. He's like, yes, I'm quite perturbed, you know, because we only got to play for 2 hours. He's like, oh, 2 hours? Like, yeah, I don't like these festival gigs because I'm not doing a good impersonation because Robert's just so freaking sly and so great. But Robert Smith is like, you know, we really get going in the third hour. You know, we like to, as a band, we really gel in the third because we play songs we don't normally play for the fans. And I'm just like, man, Robert Smith he's the greatest. He's the greatest. Anyway, so I want to leave you with a poll question, though. Definitely leave a comment and tell me about your two groups, what genres, who you'd give the superpowers to, and maybe a little bit of what that set list would look like and the chemistry of the band. But then the poll question is going to be, who is the greatest supergroup in popular music history? I've come up with a few ideas here. I didn't want to repeat people because Eric Clapton's obviously been in a couple with Derek and the Dominoes and Blind Faith and Cream. So I kind of made a rule that we'd only include one band that had where you wouldn't have multiple names come up. I did break that rule for one person. So here or there. There's going to be the Traveling Wilburys, Cream, the Highwaymen. The Highwaymen. Man, it just doesn't get much better. But it does get a little bit better when it's the $1 Million Quartet. I'm talking about Elvis Presley, Carl Perkins, Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis. Can you imagine if they had Little Richard in that thing or Chuck Berry? It's over. Anyway, I broke the rule for Johnny Cash. Sorry, just had to. It's the Man in Black. So we're going to do that, $1 Million Quartet, and then Temple of the Dog. Got to throw a little 90s in there. Asia, because we have to have an 80s band in there, and then Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. So those are going to be the choices, or we'll have other. And tell us who you think the greatest rock supergroup is. So anyway, until next time, please subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you. We'd love to have you be a part of this conversation. We're going to do this a lot. Love this community and want to talk about it. Don't forget to check out the Zenny Glasses link. That's our sponsor, and I love these glasses. And then go on our Patreon because we've got a lot of great content there. And so anyway, until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Thank you so much. See you soon.